Hello and welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. Today I wanted to share an update of the first week of my no spend month. So this is an update for February 1st through February 7th of our no spend pantry challenge. And if you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Sarah and I'm a homeschool mom to two girls ages 10 and 14. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by once again. I do really appreciate you. So if you haven't seen my no spend month video, I recommend you go back and watch that video and then pop on over so you can get the update to our first week. But honestly, the first week went really great. It wasn't too challenging because we still had quite a bit on hand. So, you know, I didn't really have to cut back on anything really because we didn't run out of anything yet. Now I'm sure as the weeks go by, that's gonna change. In fact, I know it will. But in this video, I also wanted to share how much we spent on groceries, what we bought, and I also wanted to give an update on the meals that I made, the recipes that I tried for the first time, and also we found something in one of our canned goods, and I'll go ahead and share that in just a moment. But yeah, it was one of those things that it was like you never think that it's gonna happen, and then it did, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's in my canned food. That's gross. But anyway, let's get into what we ended up buying for the first week. So when I went to the grocery store, I think it was about the 5th. I didn't really need anything until around the 5th, like produce wise. And I set myself a $50 budget per week for produce and dairy during this no spend pantry challenge month. And I thought that $50 sounded like a good amount of money and that it would be great. It wasn't that great. Like $50 wasn't that great. I did stick to it. So the first week I spent $48.59 on our produce and dairy. I'll go ahead and insert a little clip of what I bought. But yeah, I think it was just some apples, some oranges, dandelion greens for our bearded dragon, a couple of gallons of milk. I can't remember if I bought anything else, but it'll be right here so you can see. But the total on this little grocery haul, again, was $48.59. So I was within budget. But when I looked at what we got, I was like, that's it? That's all we got for $48.59? So I can definitely see it becoming more challenging as the month goes on. But yeah, so our first grocery haul for this challenge was really small, and it really opened my eyes to how expensive things are. But anyway, so for our meals this week, it really wasn't that hard to put together. So for breakfast, my kids were eating up some frozen waffles and frozen muffins that I had already prepared and just froze myself before this challenge. So they were just finishing up those. And then also I made some homemade granola. I think I took a picture of it because my husband really likes granola. So I made some granola. They were just eating some of the stuff from the freezer, waffles, muffins. It was pretty basic. And we still had some like boxed cereal. So they weren't without, you know, luxury this first week. But for lunch, lunches in my house aren't really a huge deal. Normally we have like a board, like a charcuterie board or something where we just have like little snacks or fruit or something. That's how it was. My kids primarily ate like fruit and like granola and I'm trying to think, some crackers, things like that for lunch. A little bit of like lunch meat, you know, like salami and stuff. Lunches weren't anything big or extravagant, but they never really are in my house. So usually breakfast and dinner are the big meals, and lunch is just kind of like what you feel like snacking on. But for dinners, this is where I had to get creative to try and use up the ingredients that were going to go bad. So when I did my 30-day cleaning challenge, I had pulled out everything that was going to expire and I put it on my countertop so that when I had time, I could go on Pinterest and I could look up these ingredients and try and find a recipe that uses the ingredients that were going to go bad. That's exactly what I did when I had time. And two of these recipes that we had for the first week were actually brand new. And the first one we actually had twice because that's how much my family liked it. It was an apricot chicken. So we had apricot chicken and white rice for two of our meals this week. And what I loved about this is that I needed to use up apricot jam or apricot preserves, whatever it was. But I needed to use up this apricot jam that was going bad, and this was a really great meal. It was super yummy. My kids loved it, and it was a crock pot meal. So it was a really easy meal as well. So this one was super fun, super yummy. Again, we had it twice. Total win. This is something that I would make again, even not in a challenge like this. So total overall win for that recipe. So on another night, I was able to make burgers and fries. Now, we didn't have any frozen fries, so my husband actually made homemade fries because he makes really good homemade French fries. So he was using up some of the potatoes that we needed to go through. And also another thing that I was trying to use up for this meal was the hamburger buns that had been in my freezer for like 1,500 years. So I found some hamburger buns that I didn't know I actually had in my freezer. So I wanted to use them up before they would just, continue to take up space in there. So we used up the hamburger buns, we used up the potatoes, and also what was great about this meal is that the ground beef that we used was actually 2 pounds. So I was able to split the ground beef into 2 different meals. So one night we had these burgers and fries, and then the other pound of that ground beef, I was able to turn into another dinner later in the week. So the next night we had, this is another new recipe that we really liked. We had an orange marmalade barbecue chicken. We had never had this before. It was super good. My oldest daughter actually liked this one the best. She was actually asking for this one again. But again, I had some leftover orange marmalade that needed to be used up before it went bad. And I already had chicken legs inside my freezer. So I made this orange marmalade barbecue chicken. And again, I served it with white rice. The reason why I serve a lot of these meals with white rice is that my youngest daughter really likes rice. So if she doesn't like the chicken, she's still eating something on the plate. And then I usually will just, find some other kind of veggie or something to give her on the side. But so we did eat a little bit more rice than we normally do, but it was with really good chicken. So it was a win. Another meal that we had this week that was a total win was chicken parmesan with spaghetti and cucumber feta salad. So with this one, what was it that was going bad? I can't remember. What was it? Oh, the cucumber needed to be used, the feta needed to be used, and then I had some pasta, some spaghetti noodles that were about to expire. So I wanted to make sure I served some, I wanted to serve those so they didn't go bad. So I just made some chicken parmesan. Oh, another thing that was about to go bad for this recipe was spaghetti sauce. So I wanted to make sure that we were using up the spaghetti sauce as well. So yeah, we just had some chicken parmesan with spaghetti and cucumber feta salad. It was really, really good. And again, you can see that none of these meals are like super like weird. When you're in a pantry challenge, how some of your meals can get like weird because you have very few ingredients. We're not there yet. We're still in our first week, so everything's still looking pretty good. But the last thing that I served this week was kitchen sink chili. So kitchen sink chili is just a chili that has everything that's about to go bad thrown into the pot so that it gets used up. So in this kitchen sink chili, I served it with cornbread and tortilla chips, depending on what my family wanted, because both the cornbread mix that I had on hand and the bag of tortilla chips were going to expire at the end of February. So both of those needed to be used up. And then in the chili, it was the other pound, that leftover pound of ground beef, and it was some, I think it was like leftover bell pepper I needed to use, some onion that I wanted to use up, and I think poblano peppers that I wanted to use up. Oh, I also threw in just some leftover sour cream into it that needed to be used up. And we had like, this drives me insane. So we had like this much cheese in a big bag left over. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this much cheese? I hate when people leave this much of anything in a container. It's like, just use it all. What am I going to do with this? But so we had like some leftover random cheese, and it was like a couple of bags that were like that we had like this much left. So I just threw in the random cheese as well, and it actually turned out really good. So my family, all of us really liked it. And I was able to use up pretty much all the produce and everything that was about to go bad in this kitchen sink chili. So dinners went really, really well. We didn't have any waste this week, which was nice because, you know, sometimes I get distracted and produce starts to go bad. But anyway, so let's talk about some of the new skills that I'm trying out and recipes that I tried, whether they were good or bad. So the first thing I learned to do is make homemade applesauce. So it was so good. It was so good. So I have never made homemade applesauce before. It was so easy. Like, really? Why did I not make, why am I buying applesauce when I can make applesauce and it comes out so much better? So what I ended up doing is I looked up a recipe on Pinterest. I found Pioneer Woman for the win. I found this recipe by Pioneer Woman and I just altered it a little bit because I wanted to try this applesauce without any cinnamon in it yet. I wanted it just kind of plain applesauce and it was so good. I'm super excited. I was gifted a pressure canner for Christmas and I really want to start getting into canning, and this applesauce this is probably going to be one of the first things that I can because it was just so good. I would love to have some applesauce homemade on my shelf at all times. It was just so good. Now, another recipe, I don't know if I took a picture of this. If I did, I'll put in one. I made homemade Cheez-Its. So my kids love crackers. They love Cheez-Its and Goldfish and saltines. So this week I decided I'm going to try and make my own Cheez-It crackers. They came out so good, so tasty. I do need to make a couple of little tweaks to the recipe. I noticed that when I baked them, they did kind of like, you know, fluff up a little bit, so they were a little bit thicker. But if I just roll out the dough a little bit thinner, I think that they would be perfect. And my kids really love them. So learning how to make homemade Cheez-Its was super fun, something I will continue to do, and they were yummy. So another thing that I made that I had never made before, homemade extract. Well, I've made vanilla extract before, but I've never made other flavors. So I decided to use up the rest of the vodka. We're not big drinkers here. We don't really drink alcohol. So I had leftover vodka from when I made vanilla and no more vanilla beans. So I was like, what can I do with this? So I took the peels of oranges and lemons and I made an orange extract, a lemon extract, and a mint extract. I don't think I got a picture of the mint though, but and it wasn't mint peel. That sounded dumb. Sorry. I used the peels of oranges and lemons to make the orange and the lemon, but then I used some of the mint from my garden and I put that in with vodka to make a mint extract. They smell really good. I've just been shaking them every now and again. I'm really excited to see how they come out. Again, I won't know for a couple of months, but I'm really excited about it. And I didn't do too much of each one because I wanted to see what the different flavors were and how we would like them, you know, before I made a big batch of them. But for the recipe that I made that we did not enjoy, I thought, you know what, Sarah, you need to think of things that are normally thrown out that you can reuse, repurpose, whatever. So I thought orange peels. Let's make candied orange peels. This recipe was not for me. In fact, it wasn't for my husband. It wasn't for my daughters. It wasn't for my sister, and it wasn't even for my brother. Nobody liked these candied orange peels. I wish I would have got a picture, but I couldn't get them out of my house fast enough. They were disgusting. Like, I'm glad that it didn't really take a lot of ingredients. It was literally like orange peels from oranges that we ate. And I did like take a peeler and only get off the orange like skin part. I didn't get, what is that called? Like the white part that's bitter. I can't remember what that's called, but I was very careful to make sure I didn't get any of that because I knew that that other part was bitter. They were so gross. Like, I'm sorry if you like candied orange peels, but this was not for me. I felt, no, it was just a no. It was a no for me. I got to think of some other way maybe to repurpose these things. Maybe I'll just compost them or something. I don't know. I'm trying to learn how to compost too, but you know, whatever. I'll get there when I get there. But yeah, so the candy orange peels were a no. That was the only thing I'd say this week that just did not did not work out. But for the really gross story, I mean, it's not like super gross, but it's gross. So my brother wanted to learn how to make flour tortillas. He wanted to make flour tortillas for him and his girlfriend to go with dinner, for one of his dinners. So he's like, hey, how do I make them? And I was like, oh, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I told him how to make these tortillas. And I was like, well, just look it up if you need measurements, because I don't measure my flour tortillas. Everything literally you just throw in and I make tortillas. So he was looking up this recipe and he goes, hey, can I have a can of beans while I'm here? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. When he cooked these beans, these refried beans that we bought, he cooked them all through and everything was going great. And he was going to have like, I think like rice beans and like a chili verde with his flour tortillas. And he takes a bite of these beans and there was like a huge piece of plastic. Don't even know what kind of plastic, but a huge piece of plastic. He said when he took a bite of the beans and he felt something in his mouth, he was just praying that it wasn't a bug or some kind of piece of animal. I know that's gross, but he said he spit it out. I'll insert a picture of the piece of plastic that he found. But yeah, how disgusting is that? One of my fears, you know, is, I mean, I have anxiety. Everything's a fear for me. But one of my fears is finding something inside of our canned food. We don't necessarily eat canned food all the time. Canned food is in my house more as like a backup emergency, and we'll occasionally use a can here or there. But it was so gross. I went and I returned the rest of that brand of beans back to Target. Like it was so gross. Has that ever happened to any of you? Like you found something inside of your canned food? Like it's always something that I think will never happen. You know, like I know it does happen, but I never think it's going to happen to us. And yeah, so gross. It was just, And I know that what we found in that can could have been so much worse, but still, it was so gross. But yeah, so that is the update to the first week of our no spend month. It went really, really well. Again, I only spent $48.59 for the first week. Wish me luck for the rest of the month because I know it's just going to get more and more challenging. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great day. Bye.